So let's talk a little bit about Edward Jones. Edward Jones had been around for a very long time. And today we have well over 38,000 employees. We have over 14,000 branches. Our goal is to have 20,000 by the year 2020. And we've been growing consistently each year, significantly. In 1995, some 20 years ago, we had somewhere around 2,500 branches. So, as you can imagine, a company that's been around for a very long time, whose strategy, or one of our strategies, is to grow organically, generally has a lot of people that's been there also a very long time. And along with that, usually comes processes and the way of doing things that's been there for a very long time. Okay? Now, one of the things at Edward Jones is that the way that we solve for a lot of things is really through people. Okay? And so we were just kind of growing and growing and growing. Whenever we needed to up our performance, we added people. And after a while, that became a bit of a challenge. Our solve is to deliver this ideal client experience. And that is a lofty goal. It means that we really need to understand what it is that the client is expecting from us. Sometimes that's cycling through things quickly. Sometimes it's understanding what they are asking for without them actually asking for it. So it's a big challenge. And in order for us to solve for the client's experience, we also have to solve for the associate's experience and the firm's experience, because these are all things that sort of plays a role in all of it. Okay? Edward Jones is an environment that's very rich in culture. And Peter Drucker was one of our advisors for many years before he passed away, to our executive committee and management committee. And one of the things that he said was that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I think that that's part of how we see it as well. It's got a very rich culture, one that is passed on throughout the organization. Everyone coming in sort of learn about the culture. And so the deploying of any type of program like operational excellence needs to take into consideration that culture and specifics of it. One of my favorite quotes that was in the book Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge is that the ability to learn faster than our competitors may be our only sustainable competitive advantage. And I think that, as I looked out on what we did and what a lot of the areas did, what became sort of obvious to me was the business really that we were in. And often that business can be disguised as other things. But from where I sat, I came to the realization that we were really in the business of learning. And we, at Edward Jones, did that through relationships. So we would always say, well, we were in the people business and we were in the relationship business. That's true. But when we think about the purpose or the reason for the relationship, it's really to learn about our clients. It's to learn about the things that are important to them. It's to learn about how they want to retire, what they want to be doing, how they want to experience life then, how they want to experience life in the near future, and so forth. And what is it that we offer in terms of products to help them with that? And we have to learn that from them. And sometimes our clients are not really sure about that either. So we need to learn that about them, and sometimes help them to be able to learn that about themselves. Okay? So learning is a very important component, I believe, of every company, not just at Edward Jones. But we have obstacles. And I think that Malcolm Gladwell probably captured it best when he was interviewed by the New York Times as to why some of his books were so popular in business, what he said was that people are experience-rich and theory-poor. We're so busy doing stuff every day that we hardly have the time to really pause and think about that and put it in perspective and actually learn from it. So here is an obstacle to what Peter Senge was saying is probably one of the last sustainable competitive advantage that companies have. This is something that had to be solved for, and I believe that that's kind of where operational excellence comes in, because it provides principles, ways of being able to do that, and to do it in a very efficient and effective way. Okay? But in order to do that, we need to be able to face some of the brutal facts. And as I mentioned before, for us, there was this heavy emphasis on people. And so this was sort of an aha moment as we shared this simple formula of people plus process equals performance. And simply what we were trying to do there was we were trying to create awareness. Awareness that performance isn't just simply tied to people. That actually if you improve on your processes, it allows your average Joe and James to be rock stars. Okay? But that's not where we were. Instead, where we were was, and this was in our pilot division in service, we took all of the ratings over the past 12 months for leaders that were not frontline associates. And what we found was that 2/3 of them were rated exceeding. But at that time that we took that data, we also realized that we were not quite hitting our target. So those two things didn't really match up. Then we had conversations with the leadership to say, where are we with our process? How mature do we think they are? And after we went through the operational definitions of these different things, everyone agreed that, wow, our processes are somewhere between a 1 and a 2. Now, this is using principles of capability, maturity, model, integration, CMMI. And so we saw process as being our opportunity. Here's how we can actually solve for world-class service. Now, let's assume 10 is perfection. I think we all agreed that we were not solving for perfection, okay? But we were solving for world-class service. And so we figured, well, that's probably an 8 as soon as it shows up. And so the question was, well, where are we right now? Well, if people were 4 and we were somewhere between 1 and 2, then we were somewhere between 5 and 6. And so we went back to that rating around people and we said, why is that? And we came to the realization is people are working really hard, okay? And so we focused much more so on effort. We focused on their effort, and so when it came time to actually rate people, we realized that this person really put a tremendous amount of effort in here. We have got to exceed them as a result. And we really didn't focus as much on the end result. Right? So we said, how is it that we get to world-class service? Well, we want to be able to lower that level of effort, okay, and to get it more focused, right? More targeted. If we were to optimize our processes, then we can get to 8. And so that's sort of laid out for us, the journey, more specifically. My background is an accountant, and so I like numbers. And so we put some numbers to this just to kind of explain what this journey sort of looks like, okay? And it was basically to say, hey, when we put these two together, okay, we can get some really terrific results. And it was an easy way for people to understand it, and they did. And so we created a vision, and it was to insert science into the art of process management in order to achieve systems thinking across the firm. The strategy was 2 parts. The first was to build out this infrastructure. Now, I was a team of 1, and so we had to bring in some additional people in order to make this happen, which I'll get to in a second. We wanted to build this network of change agents, however. At Edward Jones, as I mentioned, we really pride ourselves on growing organically. That's part of the culture there. And so this model had to fit that culture, okay? It had to be one where, and I've seen some programs that seems to resemble, for me, sort of this sparkler effect, right? And with a sparkler, everyone knows what a sparkler is, right? The sparkler effect just gets a lot of attention. It's a lot of excitement. I think that's one of the reasons why kids love them, right? It makes a lot of noise, I guess, and it gets a lot of attention. But it doesn't last very long. And it makes it very difficult to sort of pass it on, okay? And so our approach to operational excellence, I think, looked more like a candle, because we wanted it to be sustainable. We wanted it to be able to light another 1,000 candles, another 10,000 candles, another 38,000 candles. And so we realized that in order for us to do that, we couldn't really build out this huge centralized team, that the discipline needed to be inserted into the rest of the organization, that we needed to equip individuals in each of the different divisions with this expertise that allows them to be able to focus on their respective divisions, but be prepared at some point to be leveraged in order to tackle the big solves. So, as much as we could have gone after some of those big solves early, we knew that that was risking us kind of going down more so that path of the sparkler approach. We had to build that network. We wanted to build an entire learning community that people were able to plug into and continuously learn, develop, share knowledge, share best practices. We wanted it to be sustainable. And so by doing so, it better positions us to be able to leverage that talent when we're looking to solve for challenges that involve the entire value chain. And so that's kind of what we're getting ready to do now. Right? We've got a couple of really big solves that we've teed up that we're going to be leveraging some of these resources and others to get done.